They're doing yard work outside my house. I think something really interesting happens when you start making YouTube videos. Usually I like talking about creating, and I like talking about creating on a larger level, right? Wherein it's applicable to writers, to painters, to all the things I would like to be able to do. But a really interesting happens when you start uploading on YouTube. Because by virtue of uploading something and being small, you are exposed to other small creators, because YouTube looks at what you do and sees you're supporting smaller creators whenever you look at your own video, or whenever you're looking at peers around your size, and they'll recommend to you videos with less than 100 likes. And you become that privileged group of people that chooses whether or not your fellow person sinks or floats. And I think that's really scary. I think it's really wild, really. It terrifies me somewhat, because what do you do? Is this that kind of... There's a concept in game theory, the prisoner's dilemma, right? Where two people have a choice to either take the money and run, or benefit the other person. And generally, according to game theory, because you can never be so sure that the other person won't take the money and run, it's always worth messing the other person up, which in and of itself conflicts against my personal point of view, in that at any given point, if it is not of cost to you, we should be lifting each other up. Viewers come here as judge, juror, and executioner of our content. You come in and you give us your like or dislike, and that directly impacts the impact we have. Like, the voting of the mob is actually incredibly important. That's why mass appeal is so important, right? But such an interesting thing happens when you start creating on YouTube, or maybe even on TikTok. I'm not sure how other algorithms work, but at least anecdotally, this is how it's been for me. I started making videos, I started making shorts, and suddenly, like minds, like people, start showing up on my feed of people who also make YouTube videos and shorts, who are around my size or smaller even. And I mean, I try to be fair. If you've engaged me, I give a like, as all viewers should be, right? If you've engaged me, if I've enjoyed your work, if I've been there for longer than maybe 15 seconds for a short, or a minute and a half for a YouTube video, I'll give you a like. I appreciate you. I appreciate your work, your candor. But it just feels so weird. You don't really... I think that one of the most interesting things that happened in the 24th century is we've lost the mindfulness that comes with consuming media. The mindfulness that you should have been gathering when you started ELA classes, English Language Arts classes, humanities classes. I feel like all those classes were intent on teaching you how to consume media, how to make a point. And the people who found that stuff not important, the people who grew up thinking that humanities was a waste of time in comparison to STEM and other things, I find that they have the most rigid perspectives on how life works. I think it's interesting how few of us really mindfully consume content anymore. And I found that being a small creator has made me consume content more mindfully, because it makes me more aware of the workload that goes behind it. It makes me more familiar with how much editing or how much work or how much thought had to go into the words that were put on screen. It's like being a baker and then chewing at a cake and being pretentious about its flavor, its texture, and what must have gone in it. I am pretentious. I am pretentious on other small YouTube creators now. I'm mindful of the labors that they put into it. And I wonder if you are too. I had a lovely thing happen when I posted that You're Not a VTuber video, in that people in different parts of their journey started sharing their stories very briefly. They started talking about, hey, I've been posting for 2 years, and this is what I learned. Oh, I've been posting for 2 years, this is who I am. And part of me is like, is this you trying to show me that you're a creator? Because you don't need that validation from me. But at the same time, I saw it, I was like, wow, this person's a Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTuber. This person is a memer. This person is your sort of standard 2021 VTuber, and it was really, really fantastic looking at some of you. And I feel like you see it too, right? I feel like the reason you stay, the reason you're still here, is in part because you also see the effort I'm putting in these, however much or little that may be. It scares me somewhat, the commodification in the product making of content, right? Because nobody else sees that. Nobody sees the world the way we do, right? My dear content creating study buddy. I feel like we're so quick to assume the state of something by its polish. And I've been thinking about getting into more polished content recently, but I think it's lovely seeing all of us as works in progress. The way that mass media and mob mentality works, the fact that they briefly look at us for 15 seconds and don't know what came in behind it. I mean, a person once said that if you don't engage me, I'm not going to give the like. And, that's fair. It's not entitled. It's entitled of us as creators to expect attention for what we do. But in the universe, it's kind of interesting to me how much more precious all of you've become. Don't you feel it too, in a small way? Maybe this is what a small business is like. Those on Yelp or on Uber Eats, you can choose to support small businesses owned by this group or this other group to support them. Maybe that's what this feels like. Maybe this is what this whole VTuber support chain is predicated on, even though I'm not a great fan of that. I've always found that follow for follow I've not been a great fan of follow for follow. I feel like if you are not reached by the person you're following, or who's following you, isn't following them a little bit cheap? Right? You follow people because they are of like minds, of interesting and like trajectory. I feel as though if you're following everyone, then does your follow matter as much? This is in terms of Twitter, I should say. Like YouTube, you can follow however many people, and sure, your subscriptions might be clogged, but it still helps. Small creating. I think it's cool. I think it's fundamentally changed the way I look at creation because I've become more precious for all of you, or precious with all of you. And it gives me pause. Ding, 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 10 minutes.